Hey guys, we're going to do a tutorial on how to make a game board. We kind of cheated with the wood and just bought this Craft Masters from Lowe's for $15. It's already sanded and ready to go, but if you didn't want to do that, you could just get your own. The game board will be good for placing on top of an ottoman or just putting on the floor so the kids can play their games on the floor. The husband just wants to make sure it's all good, so he's going to do a quick sanding over it. After you sand it, you want to make sure you get all the dust off, and we do this by just getting a wet paper towel and wiping it down. Next, you'll want to stain your wood. We're using red oak 215. Now, we're going to stain the whole thing because we don't know how we're going to place our images, so there'll be some peekaboo spots maybe, but if you were doing a game board, say like Monopoly, I would just measure out the board and then go a little past that because you're not going to see anything with your game board in the way. The color is a little darker than we anticipated, so I'm just following my husband with a paper towel and wiping. Well, when you're staining, always make sure you stain with the grain. It's easier to remember because it rhymes. Don't forget to do your sides, and then when everything dries, do the back so that you have a fully finished product. So if you'll be putting photos on your wood, you want to stage the wood to make sure your photos fit properly, and then remove them and prep your wood with Mod Podge, and then immediately put your photos, whether they're paper or glossy, down in Mod Podge again. It's usually a good idea to use a sponge brush with Mod Podge, but because we are using epoxy, you won't see any of these streaks, so we're just using a regular brush. So you wanted to point out a couple mistakes. If your wood has some good knots in it, make sure that the stain is completely dry in the knots. It didn't dry fully before we added our photos. And you can see in a few spots there, the stain went through the paper. Also, after you put your paper down and then you Mod Podge on top of it, you'll probably see a lot of wrinkles and air bubbles. Don't freak out, just let it completely dry over time. You can see some of the wrinkles in this one, but that's because we kind of messed with this one a lot, trying to get the paper to sit flat, and then we just decided to just let them all sit and see what would happen, and you can see this one's a lot better. With little wrinkles in all of them, but we'll see what it looks like once the epoxy is laid down. So far so good though. Once your Mod Podge is dry, you want to use epoxy, and most of them are a 1-to-1 mixture. So you'll just measure that out. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area and wear gloves, and if you have a mask, wear that as well.
Oh boy, a little much.
Well, once you have both equal parts in your cup, you want to slowly mix your resin for approximately 3 minutes. Make sure you're scooping on the sides and using your stick to get it all mixed correctly. Once you're ready to pour, start in the middle and work your way out. Now we're just smoothing it out over the board to make sure it fills in everywhere and is covering all the images. Once you have an even coat, you want to use a heat gun or a blowtorch to get out any air bubbles. So at this stage, you can do one of two things. If you're happy with the results, you can let it cure and you'd want to wait 24 to 48 hours before you use it. Or if you wanted to add another layer, you would wait 4 to 12 hours. You don't want the top to be soft to the touch. We will be adding another layer to ours.